Welcome back to the First Impact channel. This is David and this is
Jesse.
And today we're going to be discussing Dragon Ball Super episode 53. So, first impressions, Jesse, how did you feel about the episode overall, without giving too much away immediately?
Really good episode. Left me feeling a lot better than what, I guess last week that would have been.
Yeah, most certainly.
Definitely left a better taste in my mouth.
The last two episodes were, in my opinion, as you guys know, a little dry and just really expository, kind of stalling out a little bit to kind of figure out what they can do to catch up.
Definitely.
So let's just get right into the quick synopsis. We start the episode off with Goku, Beerus, Whis traveling to Universe 10 to the Kaioshin planet there, which we've never seen before and have very little, if any, information on at all. We get, when they arrive there, we see that Zamasu, the guy who looks like Supreme Kai but green, is talking to a Kai we've never seen before. Jesse, what is that Kai's name again?
His name is Gawasu.
Gawasu.
He looks like a slightly different yellow version of Elder Kai.
Yes, he does, actually.
Yep.
And that kind of leads me to think that maybe they might fuse at some point accidentally.
Yep.
Kind of like we had talked about last week, similar to what had happened to him in The Witch in our universe, is what I'd like to call ours at least.
You're right.
So they kind of talk a little bit, and they discuss his Zamasu's disdain and distrust of humans. And what are you getting off of that so far?
Seems very deeply rooted. Definitely supports the suspicion floating around right now that Zamasu could very well be black.
I agree.
Still don't know too much about it, but
Do you think it's kind of possibly a red herring, or do you think that they're definitely painting the picture?
they're painting something.
Most certainly.
Maybe not what I'm thinking right now, but they're getting to something.
Most certainly. So we have this really weird moment where we get a super strange jump cut in the midst of them giving exposition about what is currently going on with Goku and them showing up, and after their quick realization of that it is Whis and the God of Destruction. It cuts randomly to Krillin and Trunks having a conversation, and I think Jesse and I were collectively like, oh no, like we knew exactly where this was going to go. So why don't you go ahead, and Jesse, and kind of discuss how you felt about it and what happened.
So if you haven't already figured it out, you know, Trunks and Krillin are just on a balcony somewhere, I'm assuming at Bulma's, and they're like, okay, you know, did you meet Gohan's family, and his daughter cute, blah, 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 blah. And Krillin mentions the fact that he also has a family, and Trunks, you know, gets very excited, and Krillin starts to sweat for obvious reasons. 18 walks out, and Trunks is, I mean, just stricken, you know, because the last time he saw her, apparently, was killing her in his time. So.
Yeah, pretty much. That was the absolute last time, and before that, it was her and, I believe, 17, murdering Gohan, his mentor and best friend.
Yep.
And, you know, one of the few survivors.
Yep.
And that is just dark as hell. But it was very funny to see 18 show up, because we haven't seen much of her, and we really haven't seen their daughter, who is, I believe, creepily named Marin. And if you guys don't remember Marin, Marin is Krillin's girlfriend from the Garlic Jr. saga.
That's right.
And I could be wrong. I think that is the name that they had stuck with. Very uncomfortable, very weird. And Marin was legitimately almost a throwback to Dragon Ball in its old school otaku pandering ways of like, here's some boobs. Like, she became the Bulma in between, because by that point we respected and cared about Bulma too much for you to just really use her as a prop anymore.
Yeah,
at least more than what they do now. And that was already rather disconcerting. But further moving on from that little tidbit of weird and creepiness, because apparently Dragon Ball Super is now Creepy Otaku USA, and by USA I mean Japan. So they have this really awkward thing go on, and Trunks basically kind of walks away from the moment after 18's like, I heard you killed me in the other universe, and kind of points at him. And we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but the sound design crew kind of gets a nice mention from me, because previously they were using some Scooby-Doo 70s Hanna-Barbera stuff, and it was getting really weird and like cheap. But this time, when, you know, Android 18 puts her finger on Trunks' chest, you kind of hear it, you feel it, and it like feels like there's this moment of intensity where she's almost like threatening him, and then they laugh it off, and she's like, oh, I'm just kidding, which that was really strange coming from 18.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because even though like she's human now, she was never very bubbly as far as personality went. She was always very stoic and kind of
Very much so, and I think the only time we ever really got a piece of that kind of personality is in the History of Trunks movie, and that is not the same Android 18.
No, not
And
at all.
also not really considered canon for most people. But I think that it is very strange that she's suddenly like very lighthearted and like not quite as stoic as you said, but kind of cool. Some neat character development without having to show too much of her and really kind of dabble with it too much.
Definitely.
And I really did appreciate that. So let's move to the big topic, at least one of the funny topics to me of this episode:
Oh god.
the creepy My Scene Part 2.
What is with this creepy shit with Mai? It's were they even like dating in the future?
They don't say. They have. I have no idea.
Oh,
I don't even
God.
think we saw them kiss, did we?
Not to my knowledge.
I can't quite tell. I mean, they're clearly trying to say that something romantic is going on, but I mean, I didn't buy it. I think they did a really terrible job of setting that up. And
Yeah.
this is just a huge misstep in the series right now for me because I don't buy any of it, regardless of what comes of it.
Feels very thrown together.
Most certainly, very thrown together, very forced, and this is showing some signs about Dragon Ball Super that I think we're going to discuss at the end of the episode with our overall thoughts and opinions, but it is starting to pander majorly to what the normal anime community is putting out, which I understand you have to do as a business, but Dragon Ball is really going that route. Like, it had its own thing. It was originally stylized as kind of pervy, sort of otaku pandering, but now it just seems like it's cut and paste with certain things like this. And that's kind of a problem, but it isn't holding everything back completely. So we go back to the scene after this random cut, and we see that Zamasu doesn't know much about humans at all, and he's basically told to fight Goku after Goku prodding him for several minutes in a hilarious fashion by Gawasu.
And this is right at the time that they also, Beerus and Whis asked Gawasu to see his collection of time rings.
Most certainly.
Only to find that they were all there. So
yes, they were there and they were checked. So this also leads Jesse and I to believe that something's going on with the two universes.
definitely.
We definitely think that something is maybe Zamasu is black, but he is black in the past before all this happens. And Jesse brought up a really great point about what could be happening and what Goku and Whis and Beerus could be effectively doing. So we're going to get into that at the end as well with our theories, but you're going to really enjoy that and something with Trunks as well. So they do have the fight after Gawasu tells them to do so. Goku and him kind of evenly match up for a moment, but then, you know, Goku is Super Saiyan and really kind of throws Zamasu off. But we start seeing similarities that Zamasu's blocking kind of like black. His ki starts to look like it, and Goku even announces in in a soliloquy state that he thinks that, you know, his ki is similar. It's not exact, but it's similar. So they kind of get through this fight, and Goku eventually beats him down. And Goku's about to throw the finishing blow, and he powers down and just kind of laughs it off into the lighthearted, typical Goku fashion. And is like, you're pretty strong for a Kaioshin. And we notice that Zamasu gets very, very angry.
He almost struck before Gawasu scolded him.
Yes, he almost struck him.
He stopped and accepted Goku's offer to help him up.
We even see his ki around him, kind of swell around his arm, like he is about to attack. Not that, you know, Goku would notice, because he would.
Yeah.
But he does do that, and that is a very interesting point. Now, before that happened, we heard Gawasu say something along the lines of that he was curious to see how he would act fighting a human. This is after he tells him to kind of hold back. Beerus, of course, proudly exclaims that he will not need to hold back, and if he does, he will inevitably die. And that was really cool because Beerus is starting to show this weird sense of pride in Goku, while at the same time becoming increasingly hostile.
Well, to me, it's been obvious that Goku is probably the strongest person I think that Beerus may have fought so far, because he's mentioned that he was the second strongest man?
Yes,
He's
and that was
fought.
just to keep Goku on his toes.
Exactly.
As we've seen with Monaka and other things.
Of course.
Which is still very cool, but, you know, it's almost seeming like that Beerus is almost threatened now by other fighters. Not just Goku, but other fighters in general.
He's very prideful, and the minute anybody says that anyone is remotely close to his level, he seems to rage out a little bit.
Exactly. Gawasu actually does that in this episode, and he's
Yeah.
like, what did you say? You think that this guy's close to my power? And he's like, oh, no, sorry. Like, kind of the silly kind of,
Yeah.
oh, Lord Jesus, no. And that's all well and fun, and I really did enjoy that. I really still love Beerus and Whis' characters when it comes down to comedy relief, but they do such a good job of balancing them with being serious, but also being very funny.
Agreed.
And I think that that's really a big part of Dragon Ball as the meta series. There is a certain lightheartedness to this huge, over-the-top masculine yelling fest of crazy.
Definitely.
And that's what's really fun about it. That is the childlike feeling I get from it. I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
So after that fight happens, and after he gets his face whooped in, Gowasu and Goku and them, they're all having a chat, and then it gets interrupted, and Beerus, Whis, and Goku are about to depart back to another universe. Now, this is after we got some exposition from Whis earlier saying that they were traveling the universe, which Jesse actually reminded me of not too long ago, and I thought that was actually really cool, and I'm really excited for this. Because we've never really seen any of this stuff, and this opens the door for Dragon Ball Super to go to a lot of different places. The rules are almost open now.
This is almost a pre-arc to something bigger.
Most certainly.
It's going to be them traveling to the different universes and trying to track down where Black's from. So.
Most certainly, and I think it's really cool because now that the Zeno King or the Omni King is present and we have info on him a little bit, we kind of have a good idea of what we could maybe expect to some extent, very lightly.
Yep.
So we see these guys take off and kind of start heading to the other universe, and they basically talk about how they feel like Black's key is almost basically there. Whis says that it's confirmed almost, and Jesse brought that up to me as well. It does seem that they're basically sure, and this could be a red herring, and I'd like to know what you guys think in the comments, so let us know. We both stand there and think that, at least I can't speak for Jesse, but I believe that that is exactly the case. He is Black. What do you feel about that?
It's, I like the fact that they left it, still kind of up in the air. We said something along the lines of everything we saw today pretty much confirms our suspicions that Zamasu was Black. But, the fact that Goku said that his key was very similar, but not exact, still keeps it floating on a very fine line of...
Most certainly, and I have to wonder if they even know at this point.
Yeah.
Or if Akira Toriyama's like, you'll see.
I still have to figure that out. We
I'll
haven't
see
gotten
it.
that far yet.
Yeah, I'll see in 3 weeks when I actually have it figured out. So basically we see them depart, and that's kind of the last we see of them. We see Gowasu and Zamasu, which is fun to say, next to each other. They discuss what basically Zamasu had said earlier, that he has a disdain and distrust for humans, and Gowasu asks if he's basically changed his mind, and he creepily avoids it while saying, I think I understand humans, and he almost kind of tricks the older Kai into kind of just accepting that maybe he has grown, and Kai makes mention of this. Gowasu says, that is growth to me. Learning from small things and being able to understand things like this is improvement to me. And it's kind of weird that he says that. I'm not really sure what they're trying to get at right now with that, but I guess we're going to see, because he is an apprentice and he wants him to kind of, I think, maybe gain wisdom.
And he's obviously unstable at this point.
Most certainly. Definitely unstable, and I wonder why that is. And maybe there's some really interesting backstory that we're going to get about him maybe being partially a Makaioshin.
Definitely.
So Zamasu cuts away by himself, and he's talking and basically says that he now knows that humans, which we kind of feel like they're misinterpreting as the word mortal, are dangerous and still a problem. And he says that he will not forget Son Goku in an angry and exclamatory manner. So that is how the episode finishes, guys. So now we're going to get into our spoilers. Well, not our spoilers, but our speculations and our predictions for the future. So, Jesse, what is your prediction on Trunks, and what do you think he stands in this? Because you had really good theory earlier about this.
Well, my theory with Trunks up until this point has been the fact that I don't believe that future Trunks is, in fact, future Trunks. I think the farther they're going with this whole Black arc and, traveling to all these different universes and, the Rings of Time still really aren't making sense at this point in the series just yet, but everything I have seen is pretty much pointing at Trunks being from a different universe, let alone the different colored hair. Future Trunks' hair is blue, young Trunks is purple. Where it might not seem significant, it's a pretty small detail that I don't necessarily think that the producers of Dragon Ball would skip over. They've been very detail-oriented up until this point, and this just seems too insignificant a thing to really just let go. So I feel like there's definitely some meaning behind it.
And I totally agree with that statement. I had brought up earlier, and Jesse really kind of strengthened my resolve in his statement here. Well, my faith in the statement. We get a lot of things cluing into this, and for the fact that they can remember that Cell came from a different time machine to get that whole mess of a meta plot thing going on, which is amazing, by the way. I think that you're right. How could they miss something like that? Now, this could be something where they're tributing Akira Toriyama and Bulma. We don't know. Akira Toriyama says that he does not know the actual hair color of Bulma and usually does not care about those kinds of things, but the staff at Toei, I feel like, would care. They do treat the two different things differently. I know the manga and the anime are similar, but they are not identical, and I think that that just shows a difference in the way that business is run. So, any other theories for you with that at all?
The only other theory that comes to mind is the fact that, and I brought this up to David earlier, and we kind of freaked out because it's out there, but it's not completely impossible. But the fact that Whis and Beerus and Goku traveling around to all of these different universes, trying to figure out who Black is, could potentially create Black, because we're not necessarily sure if Black is first off from a different universe, but we also don't know at what time he is in these universes. So
most certainly, and that speaks a lot about where he's at, and this could even further prove that Zamasu is Black.
Exactly. They could have done more damage by going there than just staying away.
Most certainly. Really. And this just could be him in the quote-unquote present time, whatever that may be.
And that may be where also the Ring of Time comes into play.
Most certainly. Most certainly. He may kill Gowasu, and I kind of have a feeling that he is going to kill Gowasu.
Could be the tipping point.
Most certainly. We know that Whis and Beerus would not be able to necessarily know that that's occurring at the moment in time because of previous statements about that. And this is one of my favorite theories, actually, right now that I've heard from a fan, and I actually really enjoy that. I think that that's something that logically makes sense and is definitely something that they can play with. So I definitely think that basically it's kind of a neat way to go with this, and I guess we'll see where it's heading next. But I think that with all this coming, there's a lot of things to look forward to. There's a lot going on in terms of story development and character development. So I would like to know what you guys think about these two theories and what you guys think about this episode so far. Next week we will be talking about the next episode in its entirety. We are back to the single issue or the single episode format. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Leave me a like. Follow me on social media at First Impact Show on Twitter. And until then, next time, guys, come back to the First Impact channel.
So long.